Yo guys, it's fairTX. Thanks for checking out my new video, and today we're talking about close combat engagements in Breaking Point. So we're gonna start with some basic stuff and then talk about some more advanced tactics that you can use in order to stay alive. So let's begin. The most important and basic thing to be aware of is the stance system that Arma 3 has to offer, and you have to be ready to use it correctly always. Whether it's to peek from corners, sit down in a bush or play dead, they are in the game for a reason, so let's take a look. So for all the new guys, you're probably familiar with the three primary stances. Pretty simple, right? But if you simply press left control with one of your movement keys, let's say Control plus S, a whole new dimension is going to open up for you. There are 9 different stances which you can use. Now I'm going to show you all of them and of course give you some examples. The most important one for me is definitely the leaning stance. Whether it's left or right doesn't matter, but this can save your life. Not only will your whole body be in cover, but the enemy will also have a very hard time shooting you while you're standing in this fashion. And that's not all. You can also press Q and E keys, or whichever keys you have bound to make your character lean on one side. This will grant you a good position with minimal exposure, and you will also be much harder to hit. You can also adjust the stance before peeking and then slowly move to your firing position. I think that this was the most important example, but I use the high or low crouch as well as the high standing up stance all the time. Whether it's just to hide from something or shoot over something, you got the idea. Sometimes you will think that you're able to shoot over a wall, for example, where in fact the bullets will be hitting the wall itself, so just raise your character up a bit and you're good to shoot. But the general question is, why would you expose yourself more than you need to? So make use of those stances, guys. Moving on, the next thing I'm going to show you is the effectiveness of combat pace. Now just to be clear, I've seen a lot of players who do not use this and can still destroy you in CQB, but I myself like using it very much, just because I like to hipfire a lot. It's not always a win, but in some situations you won't have time to react, to click your mouse one more time so your gun comes up, you won't have time to aim down your sights properly, you'll have to spray and pray. Like in every other close combat situation, speed is the key. Moving fast, stopping when needed, checking your corners, checking your back, all in all, your situational awareness has to be spot on if you're clearing an area. I make a lot of mistakes just by relaxing in a bad spot, but sometimes you just have to take chances. You can enter the combat pace simply by pressing C on your keyboard, and that's the default configuration, and this allows you to walk or jog with your gun up, ready to engage. Slow walking in combat pace is sometimes safer as it muffles the sound of your footsteps, but most of the time I just run, slow down, and check what needs to be checked, run again, and so on and so forth. HIPFIRE is a thing that I like using very much because it gives me that split-second advantage in some situations, and I died a lot before I got to a point where I can actually control it to a certain level. And of course I'm talking about shots not more than 20 or 30 meters away, maybe even less. Combat pace isn't of course necessary, but I'm sure you can think of a time where you needed it. 'Cause I sure can. Now we're gonna talk about clearing houses, military towers, and I know that people who usually sit on top of towers think they're invincible, but those towers are a death trap sometimes. There are a lot of snipers, groups who will try to take them with a more tactical approach, and there's always that boy who will try to rush. Assaulting towers and clearing houses is a lot of fun, and most of the time it's very intense. Like I said before, speed is the key. Not many players expect to be rushed, but you also have to set up your approach and distract them in a way. Suppressive fire, exposing yourself for a short amount of time and then flanking wide and getting in. There are basically no limits to what you can do. When I'm pushing up a military tower, for example, I don't always know how many enemies are there. For all I know, there could be 5 of them. I usually do it in first person, combat pace enabled. I try not to stop until I see at least one of them, and I even don't stop moving when the engagement starts. Strafing left or right can sometimes help you, and then it all comes down to the simple question, who will die first? When they know you're coming, they will usually try and cover the bottom staircase. And this is pretty easy to control, and again, you have to be very fast. If and when you kill them, don't stop, don't loot until you have secured the whole building. Corners on top of the tower are also spots they can hide in, as well as the little wall on the second floor. Make sure to have your gun set on full auto, or just go with a sidearm. Later I'll show you some more tactics you can do, because sometimes a fight will simply enter a stalemate and you won't be able to hear footsteps anymore, which can be scary since you need to listen for those footsteps in order to determine where they actually are. Timing is also very important, as you can easily rush someone who has his attention set on something else while he's firing his gun, for example. It's always good to have a buddy with you who can distract them directly or just finish the job if things go south for you. But don't be scared to rush, guys, as it is an essential part of the game. Now I'm going to show you some tricks which you can use in these kind of situations. Well, in this particular clip, I was alone assaulting an air control tower, and I knew there was 2 enemies inside. As I rushed inside, I immediately traded shots with one guy who eventually bled out. But if you notice in the top right corner, you'll see that I have my alarm clock set to throw it. And I actually managed to throw it inside, just so it starts to make noise while I'm bandaging. If you're wondering why, it's because the alarm clock makes a loud noise, which in this situation helped me a lot, so they didn't hear me bandaging at all. Good thing is, in the meantime he climbed the stairs and went on the outside part of the ATC. That meant that I could secure the top with no problem, and another trick I wanted to show you is pre-firing. So this basically means you will start firing your gun before you actually see the target, but you will start firing in the general direction of your target. This usually works when you're clearing houses and you know someone's there, or just presenting yourself to someone with a volley of fire. Okay guys, we're slowly getting to the end of this clip. I really hope that this was a helpful guide, and I would also like for you guys to tell me if I missed something in the comment section, give me your insights, post some feedback, feel free to say anything. I am working on a survival guide as well, which will hopefully show you how to survive in Breaking Point, and I'm gonna post a lot of examples and a lot of firefights, break them down bit by bit so it's easier for you guys. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Please help support my channel by sharing, rating, or subscribing for even more content. Thank you again for watching, guys, and see you soon in the next video.